The Alpha opened the door as the maid was changing. His wolf froze the moment he saw her. Sera Voss arrived at the Coldridge estate on a Tuesday morning, with one bag, worn boots, and a number written on a piece of paper that she had checked 4 times on the bus ride up the mountain. The housekeeper, a stout woman named Mrs. Harlan, had met her at the side entrance, handed her a gray uniform, and given her a tour in exactly 14 minutes. After that, Sera was on her own. The estate was large. That was the first thing she noticed. Not large the way a hotel was large, with wide lobbies and open space designed to impress. Large the way old things were large, full of closed doors, narrow hallways, and rooms that felt like they had been holding their breath for years. She was assigned the guest wing on the 3rd floor, the laundry schedule for Monday and Thursday, and a small room at the back of the staff quarters that had one window and smelled faintly of cedar. She did not complain. She had come from a city apartment where she could hear her neighbors' arguments through the wall every single night. Cedar and silence felt like a gift. The work was straightforward. She cleaned, she changed linens, she restocked bathrooms and polished surfaces, and moved through the estate like a shadow, quiet, efficient, invisible. The other staff members were polite but not particularly warm. They spoke to each other in shorthand that came from years of working together, and Sera did not try to push her way into it. She was there to do a job. The job paid enough to cover her mother's first round of treatment. That was the only math that mattered. She did notice, in those first 11 days, that the house felt different from other places she had worked. There was an energy to it she could not explain, something that sat at the edges of rooms, something that made the air feel slightly heavier than it should have. She told herself it was the altitude. The estate sat high on Blackpine Ridge, above the tree line in places, and the air up there was thinner and sharper than what she was used to. That explained it. She was certain it explained it. She also noticed that the Alpha, as Mrs. Harlan always referred to him, never by his first name, never simply as the owner, was not often present. He came and went at irregular hours. She had heard his voice once through a closed door, low and certain, the kind of voice that expected to be listened to. She had not seen his face. She did not think much about him. He was her employer in the way that a building is your shelter, present, structural, not someone you considered personally. On the 12th day, she was assigned the 3rd floor guest wing again. It was a Thursday, which also meant laundry, so she started early to give herself enough time. By early afternoon, she had finished the bathroom attached to the main guest room, scrubbing the tile, replacing the towels, wiping down every surface until it reflected light properly. She came back into the bedroom to gather her supplies. Mrs. Harlan had told her clearly that morning, "The Alpha returns no earlier than 7 on Thursdays. You have plenty of time." So Sera set her supply cart near the door, and because her work uniform had gotten wet during the bathroom cleaning and was sitting uncomfortably cold against her skin, she reached into the small bag she carried with her and pulled out the clean shirt she always kept as backup. She would change quickly, finish packing the cart, and be done. She had just pulled the wet shirt over her head when the door opened. She turned fast, arms crossing, the clean shirt pressed against her chest. Her heart jumped hard once and then steadied, a habit born from years of situations that required her to stay calm first and react second. The man in the doorway was tall. That was the first thing she registered. Not his face, not his expression, but the way he filled the frame completely. Broad shoulders and straight posture, and the kind of physical presence that changed the temperature of a room simply by entering it. He was dressed in dark outdoor clothes, and there was mud on his boots, which told her he had come in from outside and come directly here without stopping, which meant he had not been expected and Mrs. Harlan had not known. Her second thought, arriving immediately after the first, was that this was him, the Alpha, Kade Coldridge. She knew without being told. Her third thought was much simpler. He needs to look away right now. She held his gaze, not aggressively, just steadily, and waited. He did not look away, but he also did not look at her, the way she had braced for. He was not looking at her body, he was looking at her face, directly, and with an expression she had never seen on anyone before. Not quite confusion, not quite recognition, something in between that looked almost involuntary, like a man who had just heard a sound he could not identify and was trying very hard to place it. His jaw was tight, His right hand had come up to rest against the doorframe, and she noticed, because she noticed small things, it was how she moved through the world, that his knuckles had gone white. "You're back early," she said. Her voice came out level. She was glad of that. He blinked. Something shifted in his expression. He seemed to come back to himself from somewhere far away. He stopped. He actually stopped mid-sentence, which she suspected was not something that happened to him regularly. "I'm Sera Voss," she said, because the silence needed filling, and she was not going to be the one standing in it without a name. "I've worked here 11 days. I was told you wouldn't be back until evening." 11 days, he repeated. His voice was exactly what she had imagined, from hearing it through the door. Low, certain, but right now, something underneath it was uncertain, and that was the strangest part of all. "Yes," she said, 11. She held out the time between them like a small, plain fact. "If you give me a moment, I'll be done, and out of your way." She expected him to step back, to retreat down the hallway with some brief, automatic apology, the way any reasonable person would when they had walked in on an employee in a state of undress. She was already calculating how quickly she could finish, how little this would cost her if she handled it without making it larger than it was. He did not step back. He stepped aside, against the doorframe, half into the hallway, and looked away then, finally, his gaze going to the floor with an expression she could only describe as controlled, like a man holding something still by force of will alone. "Take your time," he said. She put on her clean shirt. She packed her supply cart. She moved with the same quiet efficiency she always moved with, and she did not rush, because rushing would have meant the moment had rattled her. It had rattled her, a little, in a way she could not fully name, but she was not going to show that. When she wheeled the cart toward the door, she nodded once, brief, professional, and stepped past him into the hallway. She did not look back. She felt him watching. That she could not explain, and she did not try to. Kade stood in the hallway for a long time after she had gone. His wolf had not moved. That was the only way he could describe it. The second consciousness inside him, the one that had been restless since the day he took his first breath, and had never once been fully still, was not moving. It was not prowling the edges of his mind the way it always did. It was not pushing or demanding or filling his chest with the constant low pressure of instinct seeking an outlet. It was standing completely, perfectly still, and it was facing the direction she had gone. Kade pressed the back of his head against the wall. He exhaled slowly, deliberately, the way he had trained himself to exhale when things were moving faster than he wanted them to. 11 days. She had been in his house for 11 days. She had walked these floors, breathed this air, slept under this roof. His wolf, which could detect the mood of a packmate from 2 floors away, which had flagged strangers at the gate before the cameras had not noticed her. Not once. Not in 11 days. That was not possible. Unless it had noticed, and had been waiting for him to be in the same room, waiting for exactly this. He closed his eyes. He had grown up hearing about this. Every wolf did. The stories were so common they had become background noise, told at pack gatherings, referenced in the old records, described by older wolves with an expression he had always read as nostalgia but now understood was something else entirely. Not nostalgia, relief. The relief of a thing finally arriving that you had been waiting for, without knowing you were waiting. He had never expected it to arrive like this. In a guest room he rarely used, involving a woman in a wet work uniform who had looked at him not with deference, not the way every person in this house looked at him, but with the level, assessing gaze of someone who was deciding whether the situation required her to be polite or firm, and had chosen polite as a courtesy rather than a reflex. She was human, he was nearly certain of it. She had no wolf, no pack scent, nothing that should have registered to him as significant. And yet, he thought about the way his wolf had gone still the moment he saw her face. He thought about 11 days. He pushed off the wall and walked to the window at the end of the hallway. Below, on the path that curved around the east side of the estate, he could see her, small from this height, pushing the supply cart toward the service entrance, her dark hair pulled back, her pace unhurried. She did not look up. He watched until she turned the corner and was gone. Then he went downstairs, told his beta he would not be available for the evening briefing, and sat in his study for a long time, saying nothing to anyone. His wolf watched the door the whole time. Bright. Sera thought about it twice that evening. The first time was during dinner in the staff kitchen, when one of the other housekeepers, a woman named Delia who had worked at the estate for 6 years and knew everything, mentioned casually that the alpha had come back early from his patrol. Unusual, Delia said, not particularly to anyone. He's been early twice this month. Something's going on up at the borderlines. Sera nodded and said nothing and ate her food. The second time was later, lying in her small staff room with the cedar smell and the one window, staring at the ceiling. She was not thinking about what had happened in the way she might have thought about an embarrassing moment, replaying it, cringing, wishing it away. She was thinking about his expression. She had seen many expressions on many faces in her life. She had grown up in a family where watching faces carefully was a survival skill, learning to read the room before the room decided something about you. She was good at it. She had always been good at it. She did not know what to do with the expression she had seen on Kade Coldridge's face in that doorway. It had not been what she expected. She had expected discomfort, or irritation, or the particular blank-faced courtesy of a powerful man managing an awkward situation. She had been prepared for all of those. She had not been prepared for what she actually saw, which was something that looked, and she knew this was strange. She knew it made no logical sense, like recognition. Like a man who had been looking for something without knowing it, and had just found it in the last place he thought to look. She turned onto her side and told herself firmly that she was reading too much into a brief, awkward interaction with her employer, and that the altitude was still affecting her, and that she needed to sleep because laundry started at 6. She slept. She dreamed, vaguely, of pine trees, and the smell of something dark and clean, like earth after rain. She did not think too hard about that either. The next morning, she arrived at the laundry room at 5:58. She sorted the linens by color and weight, started the first load, and was moving through the second-floor hallway with fresh towels when she heard footsteps on the stairs behind her. She turned. Kade Coldridge was coming up the stairs in a plain dark shirt and no jacket, carrying 2 cups of coffee. His expression was composed, deliberate, the expression of a man who had made a decision and was now implementing it without second-guessing himself. He held one of the cups out to her. She looked at it, then at him. "Mrs. Harlan doesn't start until 7, he said. "The kitchen isn't staffed yet. I made it myself." A pause. "It's not bad." She took the cup. It was warm in her hands. She looked at him for a moment, and he looked back, and neither of them pretended the morning was ordinary. "Thank you," she said. "You've been here 11 days, he said. "I don't know anything about you." She considered that. "You could ask Mrs. Harlan. She keeps records." "I'm not asking Mrs. Harlan." She looked down at the coffee, then back up. "Sera Voss," she said. 24. From the city. "My mother is sick, and the bills are real. I work hard, and I don't cause problems, and I didn't know you were coming back early yesterday." He nodded once. "Kade Coldridge," he said. 29. From here. Born and raised on this ridge, which means I've never had to introduce myself to anyone in this house before." She almost smiled. "Not quite. I noticed," she said. Something changed in his face, very slightly. A shift at the edges. Something that on another face she would have called the beginning of a smile. "I'll work on that," he said. She adjusted the stack of towels in her arm, the coffee cup balanced in her free hand. "I have to finish the second floor by 8, she said. "I know," he said. "I won't keep you." He stepped aside, the same way he had the night before, deliberate and careful, and let her pass. She walked down the hallway. This time, she did look back. Just once, briefly, over her shoulder. He was still standing at the top of the stairs, watching her go, his own coffee cup held at his side, his expression carrying something quiet and patient and entirely new. She faced forward again and kept walking. But she was smiling now. Small, private, turned toward the linen closet door so no one would see it. It was, she thought, going to be a very interesting job. End of story.